One of the most expensive conversations I have with Northern Virginia sellers often begins with a very reasonable question. Brian, should we renovate the kitchen before we sell? And sometimes the seller has already received a quote, $85,000. New cabinets, quartz countertops, luxury appliances, new flooring, designer backsplash, the works. And the homeowner assumes that if they spend $85,000, the house will sell for at least $85,000 more. But that is not how the market works, especially in Northern Virginia, and especially today. Mortgage rates are still hovering in the mid 6% range. Buyers are not simply asking whether they can afford your house. They're calculating the monthly payment. They're calculating how much cash they need for closing and whether the roof is approaching the end of its useful life. And buyers are asking whether they will need to finance an $80,000 kitchen renovation after they move in. Buyers want protection from major future expenses, but that does not mean that they will reimburse you dollar for every renovation that you choose. There's a big difference between making a home feel updated and spending money on upgrades that buyers did not ask for. And I've also seen the opposite scenario play out. The seller spends a fraction of that amount on paint, floor refinishing, landscaping, lighting, maybe decluttering, and a handful of strategic repairs. The home feels brighter. It photographs better. Buyers feel more confident. Suddenly the seller has multiple offers. Today, I want to help you avoid spending $50,000 to create $10,000 worth of buyer interest, because the goal is not to create your dream house when you're selling. The goal is to create a house that more buyers want to buy. So before we discuss renovations, let's talk a little bit about the buyer, because one of the biggest mistakes that sellers make is improving the house they wish they owned instead of preparing the house buyers actually want. The Northern Virginia buyer today is not necessarily looking for the biggest possible home. Many buyers are asking more practical questions. Can I work from home comfortably? Is there a room that can function as an office without sacrificing a bedroom? Where does the Peloton go? Can the basement become a playroom during the day and a guest space on the weekend? Is there enough natural light in the house? Is there storage for strollers, sports equipment, luggage, holiday decorations, and Target runs? Does the outdoor space feel usable? All of this matters because Northern Virginia buyers are often making expensive trade-offs. The Arlington buyer may sacrifice square footage for a shorter commute and walkability, whereas the Burke buyer may prioritize a larger yard and a more traditional floor plan. McLean buyers may expect a more elevated level of finish because the price point is substantially higher than many other places in Northern Virginia. So your renovation decision has to match the buyer who's most likely to purchase your specific property. Let's begin with the king of seller preparation, paint. It's not glamorous. It will not earn you a dramatic reveal on an HGTV renovation show, but fresh, neutral paint consistently changes the way that buyers experience a house. Buyers do not necessarily walk into the house and compliment the paint. They simply feel that the home is cleaner, calmer, and better maintained. It matters even more in older homes with smaller rooms. Flooring is another high impact category. The answer is not automatically to replace everything. In Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and many other established Northern Virginia neighborhoods, homes often already have solid hardwood floors. They may simply be scratched, dull, or hidden beneath old carpet. So refinishing existing hardwood floors can transform a house without reinventing it. If the carpet is worn, stained, or carrying pet odors, replace it. The hardwoods need refinishing, refinish them. If your floors are already in good condition, don't tear them out simply because a flooring salesperson showed you a trendier product. This is seller preparation, not a personal design project. Now, let's move outside. Many buyers begin forming an opinion before they ever step through the front door. It's called curb appeal. Sometimes they begin forming this opinion before they even get out of the car. I've had buyers say, don't even stop the car when we pulled up to a house. Overgrown shrubs, dead mulch, weeds in the walkway, peeling paint on the front door, a stained driveway, a leaning mailbox. Now, none of these issues by themselves seem enormous, but together they tell a story. buyer begins wondering, if this is what I can see now, what am I going to find during the home inspection? Now compare that with fresh mulch, trimmed shrubs, pressure washed walkway, a clean front door, simple seasonal flowers, updated house numbers, and a tidy lawn. And that signal is powerful because buyers are not only purchasing your home, they're trying to assess whether you maintained it responsibly. Here's where local knowledge really matters. Outdoor improvements do not have the same value everywhere. Take Great Falls, for example. A small patio may be pleasant, but it may not dramatically change the buyer's perception of the home. The property may already have a large lot, mature landscaping, and several outdoor options. However, in Delray, Old Town, Falls Church City, or North Arlington, outdoor space is scarcer. So a well-designed patio, a charming deck, or a clearly defined seating area feel like an additional living room. You're not adding official square footage to the house, but you are making the property live larger. Imagine a Delray bungalow on a modest lot. The house may not have a huge family room. The basement may have a lower ceiling height, but a clean flagstone patio, tasteful landscaping, and a comfortable seating area can help buyers imagine morning coffee, outdoor dinners, and friends gathering on a spring evening. That's why the correct question is not which renovation has the highest ROI nationally. Instead, the correct question is, which improvement solves the biggest weakness of my particular home in my particular Northern Virginia neighborhood? Natural light is one of the strongest emotional selling features in almost any home. A bright house feels larger, and a dark house feels more dated. So before going on the market, look at your home through a buyer's eyes. Do heavy drapes block the windows? Are the light bulbs inconsistent from room to room? Are shrubs blocking your front windows? Sometimes the solution is simple. Clean the windows, open the blinds, remove the heavy window treatments, trim the exterior landscaping, replace dated fixtures, use consistent light bulbs, add lamps where appropriate. You may only spend hundreds of dollars rather than tens of thousands, but visually, your home will feel significantly more polished. Now, I want to talk about a category that many Northern Virginia homeowners often overlook. We call it the invisible renovation. These are the projects that may never appear in any of your listing photos. Nobody is going to walk into your open house and say, wow, beautifully cleaned gutters. But these projects can protect your equity during the negotiations. Buyer does not only evaluate the house during the showing or during the open house. Buyer evaluates your house again during the home inspection. Before listing your home, consider servicing the HVAC system. Clean the gutters, check for active leaks, repair loose railings, make sure your bathroom fans are functioning, fix visibly damaged outlets or switches, address water stains, replace broken window seals when appropriate. Pay attention to exterior drainage. In Northern Virginia, water management really matters. We sometimes have some very heavy summer storms. We often have older basements and properties with grading challenges. So a buyer may forgive an older vanity in the bathroom, but a buyer becomes very nervous when the inspection report raises questions about moisture, drainage, electrical issues, or deferred maintenance. Once buyers become nervous, they do not always limit their concern to the actual repair cost. They begin discounting the entire house. This is also where my legal background and my experience as a managing broker comes into play. Before you renovate, you have to understand whether permits are required. Do not assume that a contractor handled everything correctly, and do not assume that a DIY project is harmless because the finished product looks attractive. If you altered structural walls, finished a basement, built a deck, added a bathroom, modified electrical work, or completed a significant addition, permit questions may come up. Those exact requirements depend upon the Northern Virginia's jurisdiction and the scope of the work. An unpermitted renovation can create uncertainty, and uncertainty can be expensive. It can create questions during inspection negotiations and possibly delay the sale. It can create issues when the buyer eventually resells the property. Before you spend money on cosmetic upgrades, make sure the work already completed in your home is documented appropriately. That may not be the most exciting advice in this video, but it may be some of the most valuable. Now, I'm going to tell you something that many contractors do not want to hear. Decluttering can create more buyer appeal than remodeling. especially in Northern Virginia. Square footage is expensive. Storage is valuable. Buyers make assumptions based on what they see when they walk through the house. Let's say you're selling a townhome in Kingstown or Cameron Station or Potomac Yard. If every closet is packed from floor to ceiling, buyer does not think these owners have a lot of belongings. The buyer thinks this house does not have enough storage. If your basement is packed with furniture, toys, exercise equipment, the buyer does not see flexibility. The buyer sees a cramped room. Now, I'm not saying that your closets should be empty, but your closets also should not be packed. Aim for roughly half to 2/3 full. Organize the shelves. Remove the seasonal items. Pack away your excess clothing and reduce the visual noise. Same principle applies to bookshelves, kitchen counters, garages, basements, and spare bedrooms. You're not trying to convince buyers that nobody lives there, especially when you still do. You're showing them how comfortably they could live there. There's another category that sellers sometimes miss: technology. Northern Virginia has a large population of government professionals, consultants, defense sector employees, technology workers, and hybrid employees. Many buyers need the house to function as both a home and as their workplace. This doesn't mean that you should spend thousands and thousands of dollars installing gadgets all throughout the property. However, a few practical improvements can make the home feel more current. Make sure the home office feels intentional. If possible, demonstrate that there is a comfortable workspace with good natural light. Make sure Wi-Fi coverage is strong throughout the home. A good Wi-Fi system can be a practical selling feature. In some cases, updated outlets or charging-friendly spaces can make a kitchen counter, mudroom, or home office feel more functional. You do not need to replace every outlet in the house with the latest USB configuration. A modest, thoughtful upgrade is useful. Turning the house into an electronics showroom is not. Now, let's move into the yellow category, the more iffy improvements. These improvements may help, but they're not automatic. The answer depends on your neighborhood, price point, competition, the age of your home, the existing condition of the home, your timeline, and your budget. Kitchens can absolutely affect value, but there is a major difference between a kitchen refresh and a complete kitchen renovation. So let's compare two situations. In scenario 1 in Springfield, you're selling a well-maintained colonial. The kitchen might be slightly dated, but functional. The cabinets are solid. The appliances, they all work, and the layout is reasonable. In that situation, a refresh may be smarter than a full remodel. Consider new cabinet hardware, updated lighting, fresh paint, a cleaner backsplash, a modern faucet, maybe new countertops if the existing ones are visibly dated, professional cleaning for sure, selective appliance replacement if one appliance is clearly mismatched or failing. The goal is to reduce objections without overinvesting. Now, imagine a substantially more expensive property in McLean. The kitchen dates from the 1990s. The cabinets are visibly worn. The appliances are nearing the end of their useful life. And the layout feels disconnected from the rest of the home. At a higher price point, the kitchen may become a much more serious competitive weakness. But even then, the decision requires care. Do not automatically assume that the most expensive renovation is the smartest renovation. The buyer purchasing the McLean home may have their own preferences. A rushed luxury renovation completed immediately before listing can still miss the mark. Bathrooms follow the same principle. Most buyers do not require a spa retreat, but they do want bathrooms to feel clean, bright, and functional. So before gutting the bathroom, consider fresh caulk, clean grout, updated mirror, improved lighting, new vanity hardware, modern faucet, fresh paint, maybe a replaced shower curtain or a clean glass enclosure, and of course, again, professional cleaning. These improvements can dramatically change buyer perception. Now, if the bathroom is genuinely dysfunctional, damaged, or severely outdated relative to the other homes in the neighborhood, a more significant renovation may make sense. But imported stone and designer fixtures are rarely the first dollars that I would spend. Decks and patios are highly neighborhood dependent. In a close-in neighborhood with smaller lots, clearly defined outdoor living space can make a home feel more livable. In Old Town, Del Rey, North Arlington, and Falls Church City, a thoughtfully presented patio can become a major emotional selling point. In a larger suburban property, the question may be different. Don't build an elaborate outdoor kitchen 3 weeks before going on the market because you assume buyers will reimburse you. But also don't underestimate the value of making existing outdoor space feel intentional. A finished basement could add useful living space. But finishing a basement immediately before selling is not always the best move. Those costs can escalate quickly. Permits may be required. Electrical work may be involved. Moisture concerns need to be addressed. Ceiling height may affect functionality, and not all finished space is perceived equally. In Burke, Fairfax, Springfield, or Vienna, a functional finished basement may be valuable for families who want a playroom, guest space, gym, or home office. Whereas in close-in Arlington, the basement may add flexibility, but buyers might still notice low ceilings, limited natural light, or an awkward layout. Don't confuse finished square footage with valuable square footage. The space needs to solve a buyer problem. Now, let's move quickly through the red category. These projects may make sense if you plan to enjoy the house for another 7 or 10 years. They're often difficult to justify if what you're doing is preparing to sell the house. Architect, engineer, permits, contractor, materials, delays, unexpected expenses. A major addition can improve a home, but beginning one shortly before selling is often a poor financial gamble. Wolf range, sub-zero refrigerator, custom cabinetry, imported stone. Beautiful? Absolutely. Guaranteed to return your investment? No. A buyer may love the kitchen without paying you back for every premium choice that you made. Custom wine walls, elaborate built-ins, specialty hobby rooms, highly specific design themes, oversized aquariums, permanent features created around your personal interests. These upgrades can seriously shrink your buyer pool. You need to be careful before turning a bedroom into a giant closet, an expanded primary bathroom, a dedicated office, or a highly specialized workout room. In many Northern Virginia neighborhoods, bedroom count matters. A buyer may use a bedroom as an office, but that does not mean that the buyer wants you to permanently remove the bedroom. Flexibility creates value. Irreversible customization can reduce it. So, when should you start with renovations? Ideally, not 2 weeks before the photographer arrives. Here's a practical seller preparation timeline. Let's apply the test. Fresh paint? Yes. Buyers notice it. It improves photos. It reduces objections. Paint works at almost every price point. $75,000, $85,000 kitchen renovation? Maybe, but you need to ask more questions. Would a $12,000 refresh solve most of the problem? A custom wine room? Probably not. A repaired railing and serviced HVAC system? Not glamorous, but absolutely worth considering. The smartest seller is not the seller who spends the most money. The smartest seller is the seller who understands where each dollar matters. If you remember only one thing from this video, remember this. The goal is not to create the nicest house. The goal is to create the most appealing house. Northern Virginia buyers increasingly value homes that feel bright, functional, cared for, and easy to live in. They value natural light. They value storage. They value flexible spaces, usable outdoor areas, and confidence that they will not discover a long list of expensive surprises after moving in. So before you spend $50,000 or more on a renovation, ask yourself, will this make more buyers want the house? Not, would I choose this if I were staying here another 10 years? The right preparation strategy depends on your neighborhood, your price, your likely buyer, and the condition of your home. If you're wondering whether a specific renovation will pay off in your neighborhood, send me an email. I would rather tell you to save your money now than watch you lose it at the closing table. Selling successfully is not about chasing perfection. It's about making smarter moves.